So, good evening, everyone. Evening, afternoon, I don't know. Like Mel said, I have no idea what it is. The time change always messes everybody up. So, here we are, the final installment of our Beatitudes series. I don't know that I've actually ever preached a series before, but it's been quite a journey. These amazing words that Christ delivered to his disciples, just such a powerful section of Matthew 5. You know, there's many in theology or the church or wherever that may tell you that the words that were spoken in this chapter were only for the group that was there at the biblical times. But this discussion we've been studying was between Jesus and his disciples as a precursor to the Sermon on the Mount. But I want to challenge you with this. What is a disciple? So I looked it up, of course, and Merriam-Webster, which is my go-to dictionary, tells us that a disciple is one who accepts and assists in spreading the doctrines of another. So I would challenge that thought that those words were only spoken to the words at that time, because if you've given your life and your future to Jesus, then you, in fact, are a disciple. You're a modern-day disciple. So we can squash that theory or that rumor or that whatever you want to call it, that those words aren't for us today. You've accepted him, and now you're spreading the good word to all you come into contact with, whether it's through your words, your actions, your behaviors, whatever it is, just a simple kind word, a kind gesture, anything it is, you are following in the steps of Christ because you are a disciple and you are trying to make your life be seen like his. So these 3 weeks that we're culminating in tonight, these are words that were spoken to you. So let's recap. We're going to not blow through them, but we're going to go through all of the Beatitudes really quick. So blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. And blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. We've talked a lot about what each of these have meant and how they're impactful to our lives, and they are. Each of these alone says so much about who we are and who we can be and what our reward could be. Not that we're doing it for a reward, but there are those things that are attached to it as we act out for God. So let's jump into these final blessings, or these final blessings of this section of Matthew 5. So verse 9 tells us, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons or children of God. Now let's break this down. So God, if you guys know him at all, he's a God of peace. He's not one that goes around, he's not instituting war, he's not creating famine or injustice or strife. That's not who he is, and not how we know him. His whole plan of redemption was to send his son, Christ, down to sacrifice his life for our sin. We know that. It's here, it's proven, we know what it means. You see, this act alone opened up the pathway for our peace to be made with God forever when we were once separated and alienated from him. You see, back in the garden, Adam and Eve had it made. They were good to go. They had the best of the best. I mean, I whenever I think of the garden, I just ponder and you think about things. What was it like? And Joseph has this fascination with lions. I could see Joe, laying down and having a nap with a lion, because that's how it was then. There was no sin. Yet because we're human and we were given that. I looked up.
That option.
I don't want it. We thought we were food for a
It's
second.
like a condor. But because of humanity and we were given the right to free will, we went and we made a bad choice. Anybody here made a bad choice? I make them every day. It's because that's what we do. And so because of that, we are born into a sin nature. We are born into sin. Even this perfect, beautiful little baby that you've all held in your arms, they're sinful, because that's the nature that they've been born into. It's not through no fault of their own, but it's inherited down through the generations. That generational curse that's placed on us from Adam and Eve. And that's okay. It is what it is. But beauty is, that's why Jesus came, was to break that curse. See, now we've been reunited. We have the ability to channel peace wherever we go because we bring the light of God with us. I think we talked about that last week, about being a light and letting that light shine throughout the week. You see, peacemakers understand the peace of God. We can't fully understand because that's a supernatural peace that it defies all human understanding. It does that in John. Yet, that peace that you have that peace. You've all been in situations where if you just stop and you take the time and you pray, you just feel that calmness flood through you. And that's not because you just said some words. It's not because, I don't know, the heat got turned on or whatever the case may be. That's because God's presence is showing up and giving you that calmness. That peace is showing up. See, peacemakers are able to bring resolution, relief, and hope because they have tapped into that source of all peace. God. But while the peacemaker attempts to establish peace with the hope to bring others into harmony, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring others into harmony, and that's where we end up. These two verses that we're going to talk about in succession, you'll see how they build off of each other. Peacemakers are not driven by a show. They're not driven by political ideology. They're driven out of love. They're driven out of the love that's only shown and given through God. A love of people and a love of peace. Peace is something that's hard to achieve. We can't get it on a global scale, not through human possibilities. We can't even get it on a national level. State level? No.
Working on it.
What's that?
Working on it.
We're getting there. Community level? That's what we as a church, what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring that peace in. But where we can affect it, we can affect our sphere of control. And that's something that we say in the business world all the time. That's, what is your sphere of control? Where can you impact and where can you affect? It starts in your home. That's where you can bring peace. And when you bring and you plant peace in your home, you let God come in and He rules and He sits down and you're that peacemaker. I feel like I'm a peacemaker constant between my kids. Don't hit him. Don't kick her. Stop licking the dog. Stop doing this. Any number of things that could be said in our house. But along with that, we try to bring a peace and an understanding of God with us. Because, as a parent, I drop the ball all the time. And I can't be an effective parent. I can't be an effective leader in our house if I don't allow that peace of God to flow through me. So if we are a peacemaker, what does that mean for us? What does that mean? That means we'll be called sons of God. This is interesting. When I was researching this, it says in the Old Testament, the sons of God. What's that?
You were sleeping.
No, I wasn't.
So you were sleeping on the
In the Old Testament, the sons of God were the angels. That's what, whenever you see throughout the Bible, you hear the sons of God. They're the angels. But because of our union through Christ and our reconnection, we can now be called the sons and daughters of God. Why is that? Because we've been reborn into that family. Yeah. We've been made part of a family that's greater than anything that we know in humanity, anything that we've known throughout our lives. This is a family that goes outside of your house, and it's not just down the road wherever mom and dad live or wherever your cousins live. This is a family that's a global family. That's an eternal family that you've been born into because you've been made a son or a daughter of the Almighty. And that's not something to be taken lightly. As you make your peace, it's not going to be easy. You try to break up a fight between your kids. I go back to the kids because that's what I know. You try to break up a fight between your kids. It's not always easy. It's not always, it may not always seem fair to one or the other, but we do the best we can do. We pray it out, we talk it out, and we work through it. And as we bring that peace, it's not going to be easy, but we keep trying, we keep pushing, we keep praying, we keep slaying every day. That's what we do. So verse 10 kind of piggybacks on verse 9. It says, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of justice, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Okay, so you see, after your conversion, it's not just a profession of faith. It's not just you say these words and then everything's hunky-dory. I read a book. It's a book about testimonies from the Billy Graham crusades that had happened for 50 or 60 years. And here some of them were amazing because there were all these people who had grown up in the church their entire life, and they had made that profession of faith, and they had made that and said, yes, I believe in God. But they didn't have that, they didn't know they didn't know what true conversion was. They didn't know what a relationship was with Jesus. And you see, once you finally make that connection, once it clicks, people are going to see you differently. Your old life has been put down to be born again into the heavenly kingdom, into that new family, right, that we just talked about. Yeah. And once you make that connection, once you hit your stride in that, you're going to want to be all of those things that in the Beatitudes. So you're going to want to hit every single one of them. We're not going to make it fully. We're going to try. We're going to do our darndest to get there. Mm-hmm. You see, when this happens, favor and blessings will begin to appear in your life. And other people are going to see that, and they're going to be curious. Some, we can hope, will naturally want to emulate that and want to, what is it special that you have that I want that? Yeah. Because as a person, we're not like that. We're not, this is going to sound terrible. It really is. But as people, we're not likable. Because we're judgmental. We condemn people. We make assumptions about people we shouldn't. But when you finally make that switch, when you, like I said, when it clicks, you're different. You're just happy. You're happy for no reason. And there are days, I still have bad days. But there are days where I'll wake up and I'll just be happy for no reason. Because you're like, Dad, why are you so happy? I don't know. Just am. Because today's the day. What day? I don't know. But today's the day to be happy. Because it's maybe it's because I just listened to a good sermon. Maybe I listened to a great worship song on the way home. Or maybe I wake up in the morning sometimes singing worship songs. It's great because I'm getting ready for my day and I'm just singing. And you're just happy. And people want to see that. That when you can let go of yourself, let go of your flesh, and let your light shine, people are going to want to see that. People are going to see that, and they're going to want a piece of that. Naturally, we would think people would be drawn to that. However, we see the polar opposite of that a lot of times. What we see are people judging you. Well, you're just one of those religious freaks. No, I'm not a religious freak. I'm a Jesus freak. That's who I am. Okay? I'll take that moniker all day long, every day. But why is it? It's because humanity is in rebellion against God. Yeah. All throughout the ages, we've seen the Israelites. I mean, even into the oh my gosh, I just lost it. The Gentiles. Anyone who's heard the message and has become a believer has fallen short regularly. And we've rebelled against God. We thought we could do it ourselves. Look at the Tower of Babylon. And the Tower in Babylon. They tried to build it so they could reach God. They thought they were better. They thought they were trying to put themselves in the same playing field with God. People are going to judge you for being a believer. It's just the way it goes. It's not. Nowhere in this book did it tell you that once you pick up the Bible and you start reading it daily, nobody said, don't worry about it, it's all going to be, roses and unicorns and glitter every day. It's not going to happen. If that's what you came here looking for, I'm sorry. You're not going to find that every day. You can find that peace within yourself, but you're not going to have people running up to you in droves to want a piece of that light. Humanity would prefer power, privilege, and possessions over peace. Yeah. But the sad part about that statement is that if they knew that peace that God can provide, the power, privilege, and possessions would follow. I'm not saying that you'll immediately see your bank account explode or your house get, you have this ginormous house. It can happen. God's going to give you what you need. He's going to give you your heart's desire within, within reason. But the power and privilege through the kingdom are real, and they're evident all around the believer. If you're living this work, this book, this instruction manual, like we talked about, you're going to see things manifest in your life that you don't know where they came from. How did that happen? Why did that happen? But if you fix your mind right, you'll know why it happened and how it happened and where it came from and what that blessing meant. And that doesn't mean it's for you to keep to you. See, when we are blessed, we have to become a blessing. That's part of it. Throughout history, humanity has persecuted so many men and women of faith. I mean, the numbers are countless. Daniel, John the Baptist, every single one of the disciples. Disciples today, you see people still over in the Middle East and in India, China. They're all being persecuted because of their belief in this book and in our God. And ultimately, Jesus, he was persecuted, right? I mean, I think we can agree on that. He was, look at the trials and everything he went through to get us back to God. And yet you think, what was their reward? The reward was to hear the words, well done, my good and faithful servant. You see, to live out the Beatitudes is to be blessed. To be blessed is to be favored. And to be favored is to be close to your Creator and your Father. I'm going to read you the last two verses in Matthew 5 because they're amazing. Now, in the rest of the Beatitudes, it says, blessed are the merciful, blessed are the poor. Verse 11 tells us, blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. It's going to happen. God's warning you. This is a warning to tell you that's okay. It's going to happen. But let's see, what does it say in verse 12? Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. God's telling us to rejoice and be glad because we're being persecuted. Does that make sense to anyone? No, it really doesn't. But the reason we can rejoice and be glad is because we know this isn't the end.
Amen.
We know that it doesn't end the moment our eyes close. Eternity isn't darkness. It is for some. And pain. And persecution. But for those who've made that step, those who have really committed, both feet under the water, I mean, you're in it to win it. You can rejoice and be glad, even in the times that are horrible. The times that we've all run across it. Those times where people, oh, you go to church? Oh, you're one of those. You believe in that Jesus guy. You can rejoice in that even though they persecute you, make fun of you, call you names, because you know your reward is already being stored up in heaven. God sees the work. God sees not only the work that you do, but he sees your heart. While we are going to fail in our works regularly, our intentions and our heart is where it all starts. We have to be able to get into that mode where God knows that we are able. Can't go that way. I'm blocking the signal. We have to be able to get into the mode where God knows, and we put everything in our being into him. When you wake up, before you go to bed, the first thing that you should be saying when you wake up in the morning is, thank you, Lord. It doesn't matter what you're thanking him for. You're thanking him because he gave you another chance to do his work. Not another chance to go to work and make a couple of bucks. He gave you the opportunity to wake up and do his work. Todd White, he's an evangelist down in Texas, an amazing, just amazing evangelist. To see him go out and talk to people, just the way he can relate to people. It's really funny. He was telling a story that he was in the airport going somewhere, and he got on the plane, and he sat down, and he didn't want to be bothered, so he put his earphones on, and he just put his music on. Sitting next to him, tapped him on the shoulder. And he said, he was thinking inside, oh. And we all know that. We all been there. He took his headphones off, and he said, yes, sir. He said, how you doing? Good, how are you? So they go through this dialogue back and forth, and the guy says, well, what do you do? And he says, well, I'm in business. And the guy said, yeah. And Todd said, yeah, I'm in business. And the man said, well, what kind of business are you in? He said, I'm in my father's business. He was talking about not his daddy. He was talking about his dad. And when he got, that was his opening to the guy, because I was like, oh, really? I'm in business too. And Todd was able to tell him, no, you don't understand. Let me tell you about my father's business. And he was able to witness to this guy and get him set free right there on that plane. He had a captive audience who initiated the conversation because he woke up that morning willing to do the work. Throughout all these Beatitudes, we see what we're supposed to be like, how we're supposed to act, what we're supposed to put our energy and efforts into. And it's so easy, it's so incredibly easy to say, I don't feel like being meek today. I'm just going to be rude a little bit because that person cut me off on the interstate. You know? I don't really feel like I'm pure in heart today because I'm not really thinking nice thoughts about that person that just cut me off on the interstate. Right? I mean, you can take any situation and you can put them right into this. But it's in those moments of weakness where we give an opening to the one that can come in and wreck it all. And that's not something that, obviously, God doesn't want that to happen, because he doesn't want to see any of his children suffer or go through tragedy or even just heartache or just anger. Yes, it's gonna happen. We're gonna be there. But if we open ourselves up, if we step out of our character that's defined by Christ, he was the ultimate role model, then we've really lost it. It takes but a second to destroy everything you could have built up over years. So many people have been, even in the ministry, have seen a downfall because of just one brief indiscretion. Whether it's socially, whether it's privately, whether it's financially, so many people, because they haven't humbled themselves and kept a childlike faith and belief and tried to live out not only the commandments but the Beatitudes and all the teachings in the Bible, they've allowed themselves to fall short. And then they end up reaping that reward because they see getting all this other stuff. I'm seeing this and I'm seeing that, but it's not something it's not a blessing, it's not favor. The Beatitudes are not something to take lightly. Children are taught this in elementary school, in Bible school, right? They're taught the Beatitudes, and it's broken down, and I'm sure there's songs. I wouldn't know, I'm sorry, but I know Mary and Joe, when they were in children's church, learned the Beatitudes. And if we can break them down for our children, then as adults, why can't we grasp it? Because our intelligence level is higher, because they just haven't gotten there yet. We need to keep ourselves poor in spirit. We need to mourn, but we need to mourn the right way. We need to mourn the sin that caused the mourning. We need to be gentle and merciful, because without mercy, we wouldn't have the opportunity to be set free. We wouldn't be able to step away from that sin. We wouldn't be able to enter into the gates of heaven to hear, well done. This week, you're going to face trials. You're going to face opposition. And maybe not because of your faith. And that's okay. But remember, just because it's not an opposition of faith doesn't mean that it's not testing your faith. Your faith is placed in the one who can take care of it all, who can intercede, who can move mountains, and will move mountains for his children, for his faithful, for his beloved. Song of Solomon tells us, I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. That beloved is you. The other beloved is God. He sees you as a treasure. And keep your focus on Him throughout this week, regardless of the trial, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of how dire and how hopeless it seems. Hope is never far away. Hope is but a call, a prayer, a song, a quiet time. Take that opportunity to play peacemaker. Bring the light to someone's darkened door. Because I promise you that you're going to find someone that's going to need it. And when you make that connection, you're going to change not just that person, but you're going to change the atmosphere for that entire
Amen.
situation, that entire location. It's hard. Getting up here every week, trying to impart something that's going to help you, that's going to do something for you. And I only hope, my only prayer is that for each and every one of you that's here or will watch it online later, that you take the time to study the Beatitudes. Don't let your learning stop here. Because while we pour time into, song choices and we, setting, the atmosphere for being here and the message and the words, I can write some great words on paper. I can write really, really well. But if we're not allowing God to move through us,
Yeah. Amen.
we're not hitting the mark. And I hope and pray that you guys will continue to study, continue to pick up this book. And I'm not trying to beat you over the head about it, but because I want to see His favor show up in your lives the same way it has in ours,
Amen.
and the same way we've seen it show up in others' lives. Short message today, jam-packed in, plus it's going to get dark in about 30 minutes. Let's be real. So, as Pastor Mel was saying, tomorrow night's Bible study, 6:30 here. So we'll meet. We're discussing the second two miracles of Christ. His miracles are amazing. All of them are amazing because we haven't seen them done, and we'd like to see them done. But come out and join us if you can. Last time we met up here. It's gonna be cold probably, so we'll probably meet in here. Hopefully bring a heater so we can keep a little warm because it's gonna be chilly.